2016. He's a regional major gifts officer. He is also a Rotarian in the Metro Detroit area. He belongs to the Rotary Club of Northville. He's been responsible for major gift cultivation and stewardship in 15 districts, including New York. Prior to his role as the Rotary Foundation, Kevin served as the Director of Development and Marketing for Easter Seals, Michigan, as well as the Major Gifts Officer for Star Commonwealth. Kevin discovered his passion of supporting others through an opportunity that presented to him in college. He accepted the challenge of raising funds and awareness for people with disabilities through an event presented by Push America called the Journey of Hope. In this event, a 4,000-mile cycling trip from San Francisco, California to Washington, D.C., this life-changing experience encouraged him to contribute to others personally and professionally. Kevin, welcome.
Thanks, Doug. Before I start showcasing my PowerPoint, I thought I would say a few words since I know a few of the members in the club, and I thought I'd share one about Gene Cadwallader. I'm sure we all have stories about Gene. I see you smiling, Gene, but probably I've come across Gene at a number of events over the years, typically at the zone level, and that's what Bill used to do. And so Gene, I would always cross paths with her. And I don't even know how many years ago this was, 3 or 4 years ago, I was talking with a gentleman and his wife, and Gene was within earshot, and I'll talk to you, Gene. This person was talking about, I have my daughter is she's doing an exchange program down in Colombia. Well, her computer got stolen in Colombia, the country of Colombia. And I don't know how to get it to her. I want to UPS it to her, but I'm worried it's just going to get stolen again. And so I just don't know how to get this computer to her. And Gene says, well, when do you need to get it to her? He's like, well, as soon as possible. She's in school. She doesn't have a computer. I need to get this as soon as possible. And Gene says, well, I'm going to Bogota in 2 weeks. Can I bring it with me to Bogota? And I'm like, hold on, Gene. You're going to Bogota? Why are you going to Bogota? She goes, well, I'm going down there for a Rotary conference. And can she meet me in Bogota? And I'll give the computer to her. I'll bring it with me. I just love that story just because Gene, this was only a few years ago, and I don't know many people that go to Bogota for pleasure, but she goes there for Rotary because she's always a welcome guest in that district down there. And I just thought it was a really great story, and also just what Gene would be happy to do for somebody that is in need. So that's one of my favorite stories about Gene Cadwallader, and I'm sure we could take up the rest of the afternoon talking about stories about Gene. But Doug briefly described my role with the Rotary Foundation. I am a Rotarian in the Metro Detroit area. I work out of my home office here in Detroit. And so I'm used to working from home. I'm not used to having my kids here at the same time. So a disclaimer that they might come up here and ask what their next lesson is because they're in first grade and third grade. So I can't guarantee I won't be interrupted. But it's been a transition to obviously have the whole family here working from home too. And my travel is limited. I don't travel at all for Rotary. We're the board of directors on Rotary side of things has kept us quarantined more or less for till 2021 until we have a viable vaccine. So news was exciting to hear this week about the possible vaccine from Pfizer and Moderna. So, but I just wanted, it's Foundation Month, and Doug reached out to me and see if I could give some behind the scenes look as far as what the Rotary Foundation looks like from a staff perspective, and just a brief overview of what some of the highlights of what the foundation does, but also what is near and dear to us right now, being the fact that it's a different year than most. But we've been around 100+ years. We're a very stable foundation, and I think I have some statistics to show you how stable we are even while we go through a pandemic. But just the one thing that we're happy about is the fact that we are a large foundation, but 92% of our funds that we use 92% of our funds that we raise. So for a nonprofit of the size that we are to only have 8% in admin costs, we're really happy with that. It's one element to our organization that we're happy about. So I'm going to pop up my screen here real quick and share a presentation if you don't mind. Doug, just give me a thumbs up if you see this. Are you seeing this? Okay, good. So I will start this from the beginning. So my primary role is that I focus in major gifts. So gifts that are typically over $10,000 in the form of I'll describe in a minute of just one of those, how some of those look like, but also through estate plans and working with individuals in their bequest society membership and so forth. So that's primarily my charge. I'm typically on the road in a normal setting. Every month I'm somewhere in it's actually 20 districts now that I work with in Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New York, and some of Ontario. And I'll typically spend a week in a particular area in my 20 districts that exist. So I've been to your district a number of times, centered around the district conference. I know I was there a few years ago. I think we're in Binghamton, and was hoping to come this year to our conference, but obviously they got canceled and went to a virtual setting. But so I talk to Rotarians in primarily, our 6 areas of focus of where their support may lie. Our Rotarians are really dedicated in all of these 6 areas. Probably more predominantly, if I would be honest, where I see the most amount of support is in water and sanitation, the providing clean water. Probably the fact that we're in the Great Lakes region, water is pretty important to all of us. And so I have probably more conversations with Rotarians when it comes to outside of the other areas I'll describe when it comes to the annual fund or the endowment fund. If we're going to key in on one particular area, water and sanitation is one that typically comes up for interested Rotarians. So one area that we of course raise support in is annual fund. I may talk to Rotarians about how they might want to support the annual fund. A common conversation I have with Rotarians is they want to make sure that they have some of those monies come back to their district or potentially their club to be able to utilize that. If there's one thing that you can walk away today with my presentation, the one thing to remember is this share. If you want any money to come back to your area, always have to remember share. We share it with the World Fund and we share it with our district of where you represent. So it's a really important, if Rotarians want that to come back to their district, to always remember share. I'll raise funds for the World Fund and as well as the areas of focus as we just showed. Typically, our intention of the annual fund is that we want to utilize these projects that we have taking place right now, stuff that you're going to see within the next 3 years. This is where the annual fund is going to support on a yearly basis. It's here, it's there. If you give to the annual fund, it's going to almost immediately come out to support a project that the Rotary Foundation has. And how you do that is usually from your Paul Harris Society membership or from your Every Rotarian Every Year program that you may want to support. So that's one area that we see support. Of course, polio is really important to us. I'll describe in a minute how that was impacted this year. But this is probably where you get the most leverage of the foundation by the fact that it's matched by the Gates Foundation at a 2-to-1 rate. And so a lot of our Rotarians like the idea of the fact that they can give a $10,000 gift, foundation matches it, or the Gates Foundation matches it with a $20,000 gift. You have a $30,000 gift. So that's really important to us. We did see an impact this year. We had to pause our program by immunizing our children by the fact that it wasn't probably a good time to immunize our children when we had COVID-19. But what we have when it comes to eliminating polio is the fact that we have surveillance teams that are in place in communities where we see polio, and in Afghanistan and Pakistan and other countries, particularly in Africa. So when we had a breakout that took place in Africa, we had a surveillance team knowing exactly where that breakout came from and how it might spread, and we were able to mobilize and make that happen, of closing that community and try to keep it very, very local and centralized. So although we didn't know all the impacts of COVID-19 from the beginning, we knew that when we had a community spread that we had to have some type of surveillance that was involved with that too. So the Rotary Foundation in particular, our polio team was involved with COVID-19 right from the get-go, and we still are involved at this point too. So, and I'll describe of just how some people gave to the Rotary Foundation via our disaster relief to help attack COVID-19. But just know that although when you give to Polio Plus, that plus aspect has a lot of impact in world epidemics when it comes to Zika virus, the Ebola virus. Rotary's been involved in a number of these before, and will probably continue to be involved moving forward just because of how successful we've had with polio. One last note, this year was a big year because of the fact that they labeled Nigeria as being polio free. So that was 3+ years that Nigeria was polio free. So so we're really excited that we can now say again that Afghanistan and Pakistan are our last two areas of where we see polio right now. And we are back to immunizing all of our where we've been immunizing before, in particular Pakistan and Afghanistan. We're back mobile again, moving forward to attack the eradication of polio. And then, of course, the area that I probably have most individuals willing to support is the endowment fund. These are gifts that will live on in perpetuity in the areas of share. Once again, another way to help have money comes back to your district. To the World Fund, which means that it's going to fund future projects of Rotary. Hopefully you don't have any pandemics that we've got to deal with in our future, but the World Fund had an impact of dealing with COVID-19. Our Rotary Peace Centers, which I won't get into too much, but it's a very, very successful program that we're extremely proud of, and Rotarians get very passionate about our peace initiative, in particular when it comes to the Rotary Peace Centers. And then, of course, those that want to support our areas of focus, in particular, maybe if it's, once again, water and sanitation, perhaps they want a grant to live on forever that's going to impact water and sanitation. The endowment allows you to do that for sure. One way that I can showcase how this happens is the fact that the way our endowment has continued to grow over the years, it allows for our investments to the Rotary Foundation continue to grow as well. So say we have Jean in 1995, say Jean gave us a gift of $25,000 in 1995. And let's say she wanted to go to endowment fund share. That means over here on the right-hand side that gift has continued to grow through the spendable earnings that's been able to spin off of this investment of $25,000 equates to now over $38,000 that have gone to support what Jean wants it to go to support. So endowment fund share means half of that 38,000 has come back to the district, and the other half is funding our world project. But you can see because of our endowment continuing to perform extremely well, the market value of that gift is now at $36,000 plus. So that gift is going to not only live on in perpetuity, it's continue to grow in perpetuity as well. So when individuals, when Rotarians see that they want to leave a legacy, there's no better way for me to just show this graph of just real numbers of how this could look in the next 20 years if you give a gift of significance. This is a graph that I like to show quite a bit. So most importantly, and sorry, I'm going really, really fast, but there's a lot of material that I was hoping to cover, and so bear with me and save your questions to the end, and I'm happy to answer as many of those as I can. But this is probably the area that I'm most happy of as far as right now. The Rotary Foundation, we don't move at a quick pace. As you can imagine, if anybody's done a global grant, it takes a while to get a global grant through. You know, there's a lot of P's and Q's that we got to check through, and it's important for us to be good stewards of the money that we have. But when we have a disaster like COVID-19, we had a lot of districts that were in serious need, as well as communities that were in serious need of just support. And most particular when it came to early on when we had the lack of PPE equipment, we had the lack of ventilators, we had a food shortage that were happening in a lot of communities that were in desperate need. And we were getting a lot of requests for helping support these communities with grants, and we didn't have a way of doing that. So our trustees made the decision. We have this fund called the Disaster Response Fund, where typically when we have a disaster take place, like a tornado or a hurricane, and communities are in need, they can apply to have a grant sent to them through this Disaster Response Fund. The idea is that we want to have this fund be supported by our Rotarians, but once we have any money in it, unfortunately, there's a lot of disasters that take place. It immediately gets sent out. So at the beginning of this pandemic, we didn't have any money in this response fund. I think we had $8,000 or $9,000 that were in the response fund. So we've had the trustees moved over $3 million from our World Fund to help support this. We had a lot of Rotarians that had given to the World or to the Disaster Response Fund as well. We had a lot of districts that did it as well. I'm pleased to tell you that we gave out 319 COVID-19 grants of $25,000 apiece to districts all throughout the world. That was over almost $8 million that we gave out. We also had a lot of global grants that just went to COVID-19, over $23 million to COVID-19. So as you can see in that last bullet point, over $29 million in grants just went out to support COVID-19 in our effort. That makes me really proud as not only a staff member, but also just a Rotarian, that we've also helped our communities in need. And I should show you the spreadsheet because it's amazing of how many countries that were impacted. It's everywhere across the world. And so the other side of me wishes I could get on the rooftop and shout of how important it is what Rotary is doing. And sometimes I think we are one of the quietest foundations in the world and organizations in the world. And this is a showcase where we should really be grabbing the bullhorn and saying why we're proud of having an impact of COVID-19. So those are a few statistics when it comes to what's important today. There's a number of ways to give to the Rotary Foundation. Of course, we don't pass off cash. We're happy to accept cash. Appreciated securities, your appreciated stocks are welcomed as well. It's a pretty easy process to transfer over stock. Life insurance as well. We've had a member actually in your club that we would name the foundation as a beneficiary of a life insurance policy. Of course, tangible personal property. A lot of real estate isn't usually considered when it comes to nonprofit, but we're a large nonprofit, and we'll go through the checks and balances to see if this is a worthwhile acceptance of a gift and be able to give you tax credit for as well. We do allow pledges. Sometimes a Rotarian wants to reach a certain level of giving, a major donor level 1 or whatever that may be, or level 2. We'll accept a gift over a 3-year time frame and give recognition at the time that we receive that first gift. And a couple things that are really popular right now, especially here in the US, is, and I'll briefly describe what that looks like, is giving via your IRA through a QCD or an RMD, and how that's encouraged right now. There's some opportunities when it comes to the CARES Act that came about earlier this year of COVID-19 that the US allowed to do. And then charitable gift annuities and life income agreements that the Rotary Foundation does. Having a foundation at the size of we are, it allows us to do a lot of great things when it comes to the foundation. Many of your programs that you've heard of in the past, if you're savvy with philanthropic giving, the Rotary Foundation can do most of those. Just to describe cumulative giving, not anything to do with points. Cumulative giving to the Rotary Foundation, if it's over $10,000, you're recognized as a major donor. There's a lot of levels that go all the way to our Arch Clump Society of giving over $250,000 to the foundation. And probably the thing that I spend a lot of time with right now is Rotarians of having them join the Bequest Society. They're considering the foundation their estate plans, or perhaps they had already considered but just haven't informed the Rotary Foundation of their intention. I spend a lot of my time, I would say average almost 75% of my time working with Rotarians on how they want to have a gift through their estate benefit the Rotary Foundation. And we recognize those that give over $10,000 with joining the Bequest Society, and there's levels similar to the major donor as well. So once again, I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds when it comes to charitable gift annuities and charitable remainder trust, but I do want you to know that this is once again popular. I'll describe it like this. I have a Rotarian in the eastern part of Michigan that likes to call, he has a charitable gift annuity with the Rotary Foundation. He calls it his Rotary Pension Fund. He gave a sizable gift to the foundation, and every year he gets an annuitant payment every year. He's like, it's like free Christmas. I had no idea. How could I never knew I could give a gift and get some of it back and have a nice tax write-off as well. So charitable gift annuities based on percentages sometimes works out to your benefit. Where the market is today, CGAs are becoming ever more popular. So of course, having the foundation just named as a beneficiary of a retirement account is an easy way to do it. But there are times where a Rotarian, if they're over 70 and a half, might not need their RMD this year. So they just have that go to their charity of choice. And sometimes that exists sometimes the Rotary Foundation is a benefit of that as well. So another slide that I won't spend a ton of time on, but I think it's really important if you're in a position right now that that this is something that you can consider. The IRA changes this year when it comes to the CARES Act was pretty monumental to help Rotarians, but to help our public, but especially our Rotarians, of being able to give a charitable gift that might not be in a position that they need it right now, but it also gives you flexibilities that you don't have to have an RMD this year. So gives you some bit more flexibility. Before, years and years and years ago, we had to wait till Congress at the end of December passed a disclaimer that you could give your RMD or a QCD to a nonprofit, and now you can do it any time of the year. Since I think it was the last year of the Obama administration, they were able to do that. So giving through your IRA is something that's is pretty important. Probably the point that I'll have you take a look at. Typically, when it comes to charitable contributions, you can only deduct up to 60% of what you have for your adjusted gross income. This year, because of the CARES Act, you can go all the way up to 100% of your AGI. So that's very attractive to some Rotarians that might be in a position to be able to do that. So lots of conversations that's coming about as a result of COVID-19 and this CARES Act that was passed earlier this year. One last note, I'm getting close to the end. I apologize again for speeding through this a million miles an hour, but I use this personally. My wife, just to be forthcoming for you all, she gave me a hard time of how do we work and you work for a foundation and we don't have our will set up yet. Isn't it hypocritical? And I'm like, I know, you're right. We need to get that squared away. And this is the year that you're able to do that. And you'll be able to do that right now through freewill.com. We have a connection through there. You can see that page that's on freewill.com with the Rotary Foundation. You can set up your will if you don't have it set up. You can set it up so you can have your all the documentation all set up. All you have to do is have a notary sign it off and your will's set to go. So I would highly encourage, if this is something that you want to consider setting up your will, go to freewill.com to do that and have the fact that the Rotary Foundation is tied to it as well. So I need to take a deep breath because that was a lot. I'm sorry. But hold on. I think most importantly, as I get close to wrapping things up, I just want you to know that there's been some questions and some concerns of just the fact that, is the Rotary Foundation okay? I've heard there's concerns that the World Fund has been being depleted. We're not receiving donations like we usually do. Are we okay? The Rotary Foundation is just fine. We've been through this before. We're been around 100+ years. Sometimes we're critiqued by Rotarians by how extremely conservative we are with our endowment. But there's a reason for that, and I think we're feeling the effects of that right now, and counting our blessings that we have been this conservative while we go through something like this when it comes to a pandemic. Giving is still consistent right now, and we're going to be just fine. As you can see, the Charity Navigator continues to rank us extremely well. If I can be candid with you, of course, we want to receive support from your contributions as well. But if you're concerned about nonprofits, it's taking a look at your ones that are local, the ones that are in your own community, and asking them the questions: are you okay? And can you use some support? Because our community nonprofits are going to have the ones that are continue to struggle as we navigate our ways through the pandemic. So, but we're just fine. We've been through this before. This is a very tiny graph that I can share with Doug after if you're interested. But you can see that giving during these pandemics and during wars continues to grow over time. And if membership hasn't seen a dip as well, we've seen tiny blips, as you can see, but we've never gone through something quite like this. No, I love the Zoom platform, but I am sick and tired of Zoom. I want to be in my Rotary Club meetings and I want to be face to face again. And so I know some of our members probably haven't embraced the whole Zoom platform as well. And so I worry about our membership. I think our giving is going to be fine, but I worry about our membership, if I can be candid with you. So with that, here's my contact information. If you would like to get a hold of me offline, I'm available anytime. Gene and Doug have my contact information as well. But with that, I'm just happy to entertain any questions that you might have about the Rotary Foundation, and just thank you for having me here today. It's just it's a privilege, and I hope to be able to meet with you in person in the near future. But thank you for allowing me to present and give you a little update on the Rotary Foundation during Foundation Month.
Kevin, we thank you. That was, as you say, you sprinting ahead very quickly on everything. But there was a lot of great information, and you will get one of our Cortland Cares Rotary mugs.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for presenting. They just arrived this week, and that was excellent stuff.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?